8th year of Toastmasters. During that time, he has held all the officer roles, served as area director twice, a division director twice, club growth director, and district director, as I recall at the beginning of my term. Outside of Toastmasters, Laura has a busy life full of work at a social justice agency. Part-time at a church, 2 cats, they're adorable, that she adores, with a supportive husband that encourages her to fulfill her growth in Toastmasters and in love. In addition, Laura has 5 grown children, 2 son-in-laws, and 1 granddaughter. Please let me welcome past director, distinguished Toastmaster, Laura St.
Like my introduction said, I have held all of the officer roles. I am currently a member of 3 separate clubs, and I hold a different officer role in each club. Yes, I'm a glutton for punishment. However, I love Toastmasters. I absolutely love Toastmasters, obviously. I am wondering, where are the presidents here today? Oh, raise your hand. How about your vice president of education? Vice President membership. Vice President public relations. Secretaries. Treasurers. And sergeant arms. How many clubs are you in, Paul? How many of you are an officer for the very first time? Raise your hands. Okay. Welcome aboard to a very distinguished group of people. One of the things I love about Toastmasters is you don't have to go it alone. There is always somebody there to help you within your club, within the district, and even at the international level if it's needed. And I can't think of a better organization. I have never worked for an organization that has that kind of support that offers people. We're going to spend some time this afternoon discussing the importance of the moments of truth and how it affects the distinguished public, as well as some general responsibilities of each of the officer roles. Now, you are going to officer breakouts, which is why I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the officer roles, but there's a reason that I'm going to touch on each of them. So, what is needed in order to create club quality? Your base is your club mission. Read this with me, please. We provide Very good. That's a mouthful. But why is this mission important to building a quality club? Who can answer that for me? I'm going to pick on people. Okay.
It gives focus.
Gives focus.
Attention to what the important objectives are.
Beautiful. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
It gives you direction.
Gives you direction.
You know where you're going.
And where you're supposed to go. Exactly. Who else? Yes.
I think it gives you a safe space. That's what I'm getting out of this.
Okay. Safe space for
Growth. Like safe space to develop skills and push yourself.
I love it. That's perfect. Several of us have said it's a safe place to fail. Yes. Yes.
I don't know, it feels like a standard to me.
Say that again.
It feels like a standard to me.
A standard. Thank you all for your, see, I told you I'm going to sleep. The Toastmasters, for those of you that are unaware, there are 4 core values when it comes to Toastmasters. Does anybody know what the 4 core values are? Amy, I am not calling you. 4 core, you either, Spencer. Does anybody know what, I may, does anybody know what the 4 core values are of Toastmasters?
What's
Okay.
integrity?
Say again.
What is integrity?
Integrity. Respect.
Excellence.
Excellence.
Service.
Service. Perfect. Very, very good. Why are these important? Why would you consider the 4 core values so important when it comes to building a club? What's the importance of that? Paul?
Integrity, if people don't feel like they're respected, they don't feel like you can trust the experience, like people will gossip us at the club or make fun of them, they're never gonna come back. And they're gonna tell others, don't even bother, stay away from that.
Excellent point. Okay, so we did integrity. What about respect? Why is respect important to building a club?
Because the reason say so.
Because of
It's on the coin.
That's excellent, yes. Not quite what I was looking for, though.
Be open.
Okay, how about you? Why is respect important?
It prevents workers from putting out a negative opinion about the overall aspect of the club.
Okay, anybody else? Yes, Dennis?
Mutual respect builds trust, and it builds confidence, and it builds the motivation capabilities in leaders.
Awesome, thank you very much. Service? Yes?
Promotes participation. If you're
Yes.
feeling respected, you're more willing to contribute.
Yes, exactly, yes.
It supports personal growth.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. And what about excellence? What about excellence? Why is excellence so important to club growth or club quality? Yes,
Always strive to improve.
exactly. Yes, Barb?
Let's belong to a good enough club.
Good enough.
Good enough club, that's good enough. No.
Right, no, you don't want a good enough club, right? No, you want an excellent club, yes.
It builds up excellence, builds up confidence in each other, and it allows us to rise above ourselves. And if people see you rising, they'll rise.
Love it, yes, that's wonderful. Thank you all very much. So far, we've talked about how to build club quality. You've got the club mission. You've got values. Next, we have the 4 pillars. The 4 pillars include, this is where I have a hard time pronouncing. Thank you, learning. I'll let you all say it.
Just say learn by doing.
Learn by doing, yeah. And that's Toastmasters.
It sure is.
You learn by doing. That's what I love about this organization. You know, when I first joined, I didn't know anything about really event planning. I didn't know anything about anything when it came to Toastmasters. I didn't know how to run an effective meeting. I didn't know how to recruit people to do activities. And I learned that through this organization. They let you try anything. Anything. I love that. I mean, I did my first TLI after I'd been an area director for about 6 months. And I'm like, what am I doing? But then again, I reached out to experienced people like Amy Warren, who was a lifesaver, as were Lynn Bradley Horan and Sue Potline, people that have been members that you don't know. You know Amy now, but I reached out to members that had been around a long time and said, I need your help. And you know what? They were there. It was fantastic. Next, a self-paced program. You're not stuck to any kind of timetable with this organization, with your learning, with your growth. got her DTM in 2 years in our district. I thought she was nuts. She was in 6 or 8 clubs in order to get all those speeches done and all the projects done. I'm like, nah, that's not for me. I wasn't able to do it in 4, so it took me 2 years longer. But if you wanna do 10 years, you can do that. You can do speeches as fast or as slow as you want, maybe a little more than once a year.
Right.
Twice
a year. Twice a year.
Or twice a year, that's my 2-year-old, twice a year. You may wanna do it a little bit out of the match. But that's because the reason for doing the extra speeches, for doing the leadership positions is for your growth, right? So that's one of the big things. Then you have peer feedback. Of course, you're gonna get this, I'm gonna get peer feedback from this presentation today. And I use that to develop my skills for later on. You get peer feedback when you do a speech. You can get peer feedback as your role as an officer at the end of the year. There are forms for that. So you can get peer feedback on what you do as a leader and as a speaker. And then finally, there's mentoring. There was a woman that, I don't know if any of you know the name Lisa Walkus. She has, I'm sure a lot of you know the name Lisa Walkus because she's well known in our district. She mentored me into the district leadership. Spencer Van Rokel mentored me into the trio. And because of them, because of their encouragement, they're willing to listen, they're willing to support, they're willing to just say, you got this. I got where I did. District leadership isn't for everybody, and I'm not trying to push that by any means. But it's a different kind of growth than being a club officer. Next, we have our moments of truth. We're almost to the top of club coffee. Have you guys heard of the moments of truth? The average is. When was the last time somebody did the moments of truth presentation in your club? Let's say in the last 6 months. Anybody? 1 year? 18 months? All right. I'm going to strongly encourage that you take over a meeting, if at all possible, because it is a lengthy presentation. You're going to want an entire club hour in order to do it. I recommend you do it because and there's scoring forms and everything else you can use to see how well your club is doing with meeting the moments of truth. But for now, we're going to talk briefly about them. The first one is first impressions. Of the 7 club officers, and 8, I'm going to include immediate past presidents. Who's responsible for first impressions? Everyone. Exactly. Why is that? What is first impressions?
Your first experience of the club.
Exactly.
Or a Toastmaster member.
Right. But there's been debate on what a first impression actually is. Is it when they walk in the door? Or is it when they look at your website?
Both.
The email response, right? But definitely when they walk in the door. How are you treating your guests? Are you welcoming them? Are you introducing them to others in the room? If there's food, and I recommend food, if there's food, then offer them a beverage or a snack or something like that. Talk to them a little bit before you sit down. If there's not time for that, at least greet them, sit with them, and kind of whisper, talk them through the meeting so maybe they understand what's going on. I'm sure it's it was really weird the first meeting I went to. I'm like, why are people shaking hands? Why do they clap? I don't understand any of that. It made no sense to me. So if that's the case, then talk somebody through it. Explain to them. We clap because we don't want dead air. We shake hands because this is a professional organization. And that may help them with their understanding of why we do certain things that we do. Next, we have membership orientation. A new member is supposed to be told about our education program, which is now all pathways. Who's responsible for this?
BPE.
Primarily your VPE, however, it doesn't mean others can't assist. Maybe your VPE okay, maybe they're technically challenged, or technology challenged, or something like that. You may need someone else to help you. Maybe they're not going to be at the meeting and your new member needs some help. Any of you can help this new member with figuring out how to work pathways. Next, we have fellowship, variety, and communication. This is how the club provides a warm, friendly, and supportive environment. Who's responsible for this?
Everybody.
Everyone, absolutely. Absolutely. Because everybody needs to be involved in the club. Everybody needs to be involved in the club. And not as an officer, like I said. Program planning and meeting organization. How the club ensures members further their development every meeting. Who's responsible for this?
Officers.
What was that?
Officers.
All the officers.
And the
Okay.
Toastmaster of the day.
Or Toastmaster of the day, yes, and I would agree with that. Sometimes, I think it falls primarily on your VPE, but it also falls on your Toastmaster of the day. A lot of it depends on how your club is laid out. Is it your Vice President of Education? Is it your Toastmaster? Is it a combination of? Or is it any of the officers? Next, we have membership strength. This is how many members the club has and how many attend every meeting. Who's responsible for this?
Everybody in the
Thank you.
VP membership.
Everybody is responsible for membership. Yes, the Vice President membership is the one that inputs stuff. They are the one that kind of tracks the number of members we have. However, it's everyone's duty, and I don't mean just the officers, it's everyone's duty to bring in new members to the club. You invite anybody you want. You invite Susie Q next door, you can invite John Doe, who is in the cubicle next to you, or the office down the hall, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna be honest, I think anybody can grow from Toastmasters. Even if you work in an assembly line, you can still grow and develop yourself. And then finally, we have achievement recognition, which is how a member is recognized for the achievements of goals. Who's responsible for this?
Everyone?
Everyone. Now, it does primarily fall on your Vice President of Education and maybe your President, depending upon the club. I remember, I think it was Lunch Bunch, the President would announce education awards. But she may not have known that unless the Vice President of Education said, hey Anna, we have achievements. We have people that have achieved certain goals within their education. Finally, we have the club. This is where, how many of you know what the DCP or the Distinguished Club points are? Raise your hands. All right, you guys are in for education. What I would strongly recommend, you can access this on the Toastmasters website, even though they're having a few difficulties right now. You don't even have to log in to see this. Go to the main website, click on leadership. To the right, it shows, what's the wording? Somebody.
Distinguished club performance.
Does it say Distinguished Club?
Performance.
Yes, thank you, Distinguished Club Performance, thank you very much. Click on that, scroll down to Region 6, District 62, and there we are. Every single club in our district is there. You can click on your own club and see where you stand when it comes to the number of members. Education, maybe not who got the education, that's a different screen that I'm not going to get into. But there are ways to do it. And if you want help, anybody in this room can help you that has experience with Distinguished Club points, okay? So the Distinguished Club program is made up of 4 sections. The first one is education. So this is members who have the opportunity to earn education goals and are reaching their goals. Next, we have membership. Membership, in order to reach distinguished, you have to have a minimum of 20 members, or have a net growth of 5. However, in the points, it's a little different than that. With training, you need to have at least 4 of your officers trained twice a year. This is 1. There's 2 more yet this summer, but then there's winter, where you'll also need to be trained, at least 4 of your officers. If you do that, you get 1 distinguished point. Finally, administration. If you get your club officer list in by June 30th for this year, so hopefully you guys got your club officer list in, you get 1 point for that.
And dues.
Say again?
And the dues payments.
And dues payments, I'm sorry, just 1 year or 1
Yeah.
quarter, or 1.
Yeah. Both, Chad, you gotta get both. It's
Right, that's right.
Officer and you gotta.
I stand corrected. Yes, Dennis?
Question with regard to clubs that meet on a weekly basis. They elect officers twice a year, or they have that flexibility.
They
For-
can, but it has to be in their charter.
Okay, for those clubs that do meet those criteria, when should they be reporting the new officer list? Can they report it in December and get credit for it?
December 31st, I'm thinking.
In June and December.
Yeah, so June 30th and December 31st are the drop dead dates.
So if you report it on December 31st, that counts.
It should,
Okay, just,
but don't push it. Just saying.
Party.
Yeah, I wouldn't push that, if at all possible. Just because it's sort of like you have your dues, you know, the due cycle, March 31st and September 30th. The last thing you want to do is try to get your dues in at the last minute, because the site is usually overwhelmed. The same thing with June 30th when it comes to education. Because now the site is overwhelmed. I don't know how many clubs, there are over 100,000 clubs, I think, across the world. That's a lot of clubs and a lot of members and one website. So the last thing you want to do is wait until the last minute to do anything, okay? So for education goals, you need to have 4 level to achieve 1 point. So we've got possibility of 6 points here. 4 level 1s, 2 level 2s, 2 more level 2s, 1 3, 1 4, and 1 5 or DTM. I think it's, yes, Lori, you probably know this better than I do, Lori.
That's the original transition from 2017.
Okay.
So interesting, they haven't updated that yet. So it's 4 complete level 1, 2 complete level 2, 2 more complete level 2, 2 complete level 3. Here's the change. 1 person complete either 4, 5, or DTM, and the last one, again, 1 person complete a 4, 5, or DTM.
Okay, thank you. I forgot to change that. I took out the manuals and forgot to change that, so thank you very much.
You don't have to build, like, you may not get your 4 level 1s, but you can get any of these others. You don't have to, like, I gotta get my 4 level 1s before you can get
No.
any of these.
Right, you can do it any order you want, that's fine, that's not a problem at all. Something that I learned, and it says it here, but it never really registered with me until recently. Only 1 person can submit, how do I say this? If you're working on several paths at a time and you complete 3 level 1s, don't give it to the same club, because they'll only count it once. And now you just lost 2 more level 1s that maybe you could have given to another club. Okay? I found that out the hard way this year. Reading this again, it didn't register, but that's something I wanted to stress. So if you've got somebody that has already submitted a level 2 for your club, tell them not to submit another one. If they're in another club, give it to your club. Okay? Next, we have the remaining. So we have membership. You get 1 point if you get 4 new members. You get a second point if you get 4 more new members. All right? Training, a minimum of 4 club officers trained at each of the 2 trainings, which I had mentioned. And then finally, you've got the on-time dues accompanied by the names of 8 members, 3 of which have to be renewing. So you can have 5 new members, course, the on-time submission of your club officer list. Okay? Talking a little bit about membership. Yes, you can get up to 2 points by adding 8 new members. You still have to have a minimum of a net growth of 5 or a minimum of 20 members in order to get distinguished for your club. So even though it's a two-way thing. If you have any questions on that, let me know and I'll clarify it for you. So finally, we're going to talk about teamwork. Toastmasters talks about the Gestalt approach of teamwork, which means the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. You may be president this year. That doesn't mean you don't have a general idea what the duties are of your vice president of education, or the secretary, or even the treasurer. You need to be able to perform each role in a pinch. All right, again, you don't have to know it inside and out, but I heard Amy mention something about the leadership handbook. That is a great place to start. If you got the ink and paper, bring it out. Especially if you're anything like me, I like to highlight. I'm old school. I like paper. I like highlighters. I just can't help myself. But know your role. Know your role. But know, again, generally other people's roles. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Yes, I said it 3 times. Because if you don't communicate, things get lost. How many of you ever had a conversation in your head that you swore you had with somebody? All the time. My husband's like, you didn't tell me that. I'm like, yes, I did. You didn't hear, but I told you. Take a proactive approach. The phrase that I use for myself quite often is I jump in with both feet. I take a proactive approach. I just go for it. If I see something is undone, I'm just going to do it. And I ask forgiveness later. If you can do that, do that. And then finally, like I said, in a pinch, be willing to cover somebody else's duties. This is the executive committee, which we've already talked about. Now, granted, your immediate past president is not on here, but he or she is a member of the executive committee. That person is actually designed or is in place to help not only the current president, but the rest of your executive committee. So your president is going to set the tone for the entire year. He or she is going to be your primary motivator. Of course, they guide the executive committee, but he or she is also a base camp manager. Next, you have the vice president of education. This person is going to hopefully talk to each of the members and say, what are your goals for this year? Regardless if you have multiple clubs, what do you want to accomplish by the end of the year? That way they have an opportunity to help you achieve your goals. And of course, they serve as a base camp manager. Next, we have the vice president membership. Again, this person is the primary go-to when it comes to new members. However, they are not the only person responsible for getting new members into the club. They do initiate the contact quite often. This is the email address that's going to be on your website. This is the person you reach out to if you're interested in joining the club or even just attending one of the meetings. Your vice president of public relations. I held this role for 2 clubs last year and I failed miserably. However, I learned from my failure and I've made some changes to be sure it doesn't happen again this year. But this person is primarily responsible for getting the word out about your club. Through social media, through the newspaper, through, what are those things called? Public service announcement. Whatever you gotta do. Maybe they come up with a marketing plan and then they have a VPR team that will help them with executing this particular plan. The secretary maintains all the files. They take notes, minutes of the club meetings as well as the executive meetings and the business meetings. And they hold those records and then pass them on to the next person in line. They also serve as a base camp manager. The treasurer, you're the accountant for your club. Hopefully something is already in place, it's not a brand new club. And something is already in place. You've got last year's treasurer to draw off of. If not, there are plenty of other experienced finance people in this district that you could reach out to that might be able to help you with that. And then finally, Sergeant at Arms. I've said in the past, this is the most important role in the executive committee. And the reason I say that is because they are the ones that set up the room. They are the ones that are usually watching the door, looking for new people to walk in. So to me, they are the most important role. They're not the highlight. Anyway, I think that, and they clear up. I mean, they set up, they clear up, and they guard the door.
We had someone today do that for us at the entrance.
Say again?
We had someone today being Sergeant at Arms at the entrance. Oh,
Yes.
here for Toastmasters. There, elevator downstairs.
Yep, exactly.
It's a big difference.
Yes, it is, and especially if you're in a building where it's hard to find the room. And there are some places that are like that. It's helpful to have somebody at the door saying, yep, go up the stairs, down the hall is the third door on the left. Because that's how you find where you're going. The executive committee is in charge of the club. And so they will meet and then bring certain things to the club membership for a vote. Do I have any questions? John?
So I'm gonna be the person that is gonna ask what everyone's thinking. With hybrid meetings, some of the officer roles, especially the sergeant at arms, might have a little bit different responsibilities than what is detailed on Toastmasters International.
Yes.
For example, if you are doing a hybrid meeting, they might need to be the person that monitors Zoom chat. They might need to be the person that does breakout rooms. So
Yes.
what are some tips and tricks on making your sergeant at arms more effective? I mean, I know we've got a session with that too, but.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that the C Division Advanced Speakers did, Doug Brinker, I don't know if you know who he is. He created an opening slideshow when we were all Zoom all the time. I mean, this is back when COVID first started and we weren't able to meet in person any longer. And he created a slideshow that showed people where the